Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be doing a practical examination of the 10 qira'at, specifically in Surah Al-Fatiha, since it's what Muslims recite multiple times each day. And I'm going to be exploring each of the multiple recitations, explaining the origins of these recitations, and most importantly, explaining why these are not mistakes. Now, it's important to keep in mind that what are ahruf and what are qira'at, right? So first of all, what you need to know is through mutawatir reports, there are multiple mass transmitted reports from Rasulullah ﷺ that says that the Quran was revealed in 7 modes. You'll find this in any book of hadith. This isn't something that David Wood just discovered, guys. This is something that's been taught since day one in Islam, right? And basically, Rasulullah ﷺ had the Quran revealed to him in 7 modes to make the Quran easier to recite, and we're going to get to that. Now, what are the qira'at? The qira'at are not the ahruf. The qira'at are basically a combination of the ahruf, of the 7 modes. So basically, if you hear half the Quran in mode 1 and the other half in mode 2, and then you recite it in that manner, then you have qira'ah X. I hope it's not too confusing, but that's basically the idea of what a qira'ah is. It's just basically a combination of the modes. So carrying on, the first proof that these qira'at are intentional is that we know for a fact that Rasulullah ﷺ recited the Quran in multiple modes. That's the first thing. Secondly, historically, there's no doubt that the qira'at existed among the Sahaba themselves. So is it possible the Sahaba completely forgot how to recite the Quran in one generation? We're not even talking about the Quran as a whole. At the moment, I'm just speaking about Al-Fatiha. Is it possible for the Sahaba to have completely forgotten how to recite the Fatiha? I mean, that's something that's simply too hard to swallow. Keep in mind that not a single kid today would mess up reciting Al-Fatiha, let alone the first generation of Muslims. So, in this video, I'm going to be going through the variants of the 10 recitations, and let's go through this together.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين مالك يوم الدين.
Okay, if you got that, if you're focusing on this, you've noticed that that word, the 4th verse, the first word in the 4th verse is recited as Malik and Malik. As you can see in this awesome video, you have the recitations repeated for the same verse. So, as we can see here, it's recited as Malik by Warsh ibn Kathir, Abu Amr al-Basri, Ibn Amr, Hamza, and Abu Ja'far. So most of the 10 have recited it as Maliki Yawmiddin, right? While it's also recited as Maliki Yawmiddin, which is how Asim recites it and how Al-Kisa'i and Ya'qub and Khalaf, right? So the first question is, could this be a mistake? And it's pretty much impossible for this to be a mistake again, because it's Al-Fatiha. So Maliki Yawmiddin is mainly translated to master or owner of the Day of Judgment, while Maliki Yawmiddin is basically translated to king of the Day of Judgment. Now, I find it hard to believe that the first generation of Muslims were unaware of the difference between a king and owner, and they got confused by both words. That's simply something that I cannot fathom. Another interesting thing to keep in mind here is that Al-Kisa'i over here, Al-Kisa'i, who recites it as Malik Yawmuddin is a student of Hamza Zayyat, who narrates it as what? As Malik Yawmuddin, which means that Al-Kisa'i was aware of how his teacher recited it, and he's aware of how his other teachers recited it, and like this is not some sort of a screw up or some sort of a confusion that happened, but rather he recited in this way because he's aware that Rasulullah ﷺ recited it in both manners. You'll also find multiple scholars, early scholars, simply stating that Rasulullah ﷺ recited it in both ways as well. So there you go. Of course, keep in mind that the reciters of the 10 are all reciting according to the athar. They're basically following the Prophet, peace be upon him, in his own recitation. This is not something that they're doing from their own selves. This is not some sort of ijtihad. It's also very important to keep in mind that not every recitation ends up being accepted. There are recitations that are flat out rejected. So for example, there is a recitation that says Malaka Yawmuddin. That's rejected as a false recitation. There's another recitation that says Malika Yawmuddin. That also is rejected. So just because someone somewhere recited something doesn't mean it gets into the Quran and it's accepted. The reason why these recitations are accepted is because they were correctly attributed to Rasulullah ﷺ and they were mass transmitted. Now in regards to the wisdom of why the word Malik and Malik would be used, now of course these two words have different meanings, and perhaps I should be going into that in a different video, but for now what you can do is you can check out this video down here, which is about the eloquence of the Quran and how multiple qira'at add to the eloquence of the Quran. Let's carry on.
الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين.
Did you get that? So that is specific to Susi and Abi Amr al-Basri, and that combination of Ar-Rahim Malik Yawmuddin, that's called Al-Idgham al-Kabir, and this is mainly found in Eastern Arabian tribes at the time, of course, and Middle Arabia tribes. Okay, so these include tribes like Abd Qais, Asad, Bakr bin Wa'il, Ka'ab, Tamim, those tribes. So this as well shows that this is intentional. Now let's carry on. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Okay, I'm sure you got that. So as-sirat is pronounced in three different ways. As-sirat, as-sirat, and az-zirat. Okay, az-zirat. Now the differences between these three again have to do with dialects. So as-sirat with al-sin is the most common recitation to the people of the time. It would be pronounced with a sin according to most tribes. Quraysh specifically would recite it with a sad. That's how the Qurayshis spoke. And what I find really interesting is Ibn Kathir, not the commentator of the Quran, but the Qari, used to recite as-sirat and as-sirat. He used to recite them both. Ibn Kathir was quite aware that these are both authentic. Oh, and before I forget, as-sirat al-mustaqim, which was the last one that you heard, is the recitation or the dialect of the tribe of Qais. Let's carry on.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
That's the most common one. That's one that you guys hear every day.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Okay, and as you've heard, عليهم. عليهم is actually according to the dialect of Quraysh, Yemeni tribes, and generally the people of Hijaz.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
عليهم, that is also a Qurashi dialect. As for what we often recite today, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, that actually is the recitation of Bani Tamim, Bani Qais, and Bani Sa'd. That's not Qurashi, believe it or not. So what do we take away from this? The recitations, the existence of these recitations, and them fitting into these dialects shows that these are intentional. Not only are they intentional, but they are what the Prophet, peace be upon him, intended. Remember, the Qiraat were revealed according to 7 modes, specifically 7. Also keep in mind that there are some very famous dialects that never ended up being endorsed by the Quran. So for example, al-Ta'rif, alright? So instead of al-Ta'rif, al-Ta'rif. So instead of alhamdulillah, it would be amhamdulillah. So keep in mind that the dialects that were revealed as part of the Qiraat are dialects that had to be confirmed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are not the dialects of random tribes just putting in their twist into the Quran. Alright, to summarize, the 10 qira'at are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were taught by the Prophet, peace be upon him. These couldn't have been mistakes because 1, we know for a fact that Rasulullah recited in multiple modes. There's no doubt about that. 2, this is al-Fatiha. You cannot mess up al-Fatiha. You heard Rasulullah recite it multiple times a day, twice at Fajr, twice at Maghrib, twice at Isha, at least every single day. You cannot mess that up. You simply cannot. That's number 2. Number 3 is that you cannot mess up Malik and Malik, and these were recited, mass transmitted by the Muslim communities. Both of these words, both are attributed to Rasulullah. And fourthly, the dialects. The Quran was only revealed in 7 modes. That does not encompass every single dialect. That does not encompass every single way any Arab recites a word. Okay? Inshallah, you found this video to be informative, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.